how things are for you at the moment, Tom? Can you hear me? Hello? Can't hear me.
Can't hear you, Vince.
Oh, okay. Um, hmm, hmm, hmm. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello.
Kind of hear you now.
This is weird. It's Zoom going crazy on me, I think.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I can up my input level, I think. Okay. Well, I hear you. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Just
Right.
about, yeah.
Just about. Okay. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us how you've been going, Tom. Where are you up to on this journey?
It's a good question, Vince.
Good.
um, I've been on holiday for a week, which has been very nice. I'm still there. Um, just in Wales. Well, it's not even really in Wales. It's near Wales in the UK. And it's been nice. Um, I'm kind of in a place where I'm trying to really establish that I'm not my thoughts, that I am definitely this presence that's always here and is observing everything. But it's surprisingly difficult to convince. I don't know whether the thoughts ever will be convinced of that fact, actually. It's quite interesting. I think they just kind of carry on as they are, even when the rest of me absolutely knows that I'm not them, they're still kind of bouncing around, imagining whether kind of having conversations with themselves about whether they've got it yet or whether it's even going to be there, all this kind of stuff. And so I'm pulling back from all of that. But it's amazing how sticky it is. It's amazing how much it's kind of dragging me in. It's they're so clever at making me think that they're them. So clever. And when I think I've got it, another thought will come up and be like, oh yeah, I got it, you know? And it's like they're sneaky, sneaky fuckers. And they're constantly convincing me that they're somehow got anything to do with what I am. So I just had a very interesting walk this morning where I was like, it kind of like going in and out of it, in and out of it. You know, I'd stand back, I'd watch it happening. It's like all of this stuff. And then I'd find myself kind of back in there again and I'd pull myself out. And it's just this very interesting kind of play. Even though there's awareness the whole time that at no point have I become any of these thoughts, that they're just kind of dancing around in what I am. Um, yeah, it's a weird place. It's a weird place because despite the fact that I know, part of me obviously doesn't. So there's like this, there is a there feels like there's a sense of suffering when there's all these like crazy thoughts going on. And a lot of them are about this. A lot of them are about
Mm.
thinking about themselves. It's like meta. It's like thinking about the fact that I'm not thinking about my thoughts, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a bit confusing, but also there is an awareness that I'm just outside of all of it, and the confusion is also just arising up.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, go figure. That's kind of where I am.
Okay. So I only see one problem there. Problem, well, is maybe not the right word, but we'll call it a problem for the moment. There's only one thing that you've got to do, and you fix the whole thing, and that's stop believing your thoughts.
Yeah,
But you don't believe them, do you? The moment one of them sucks you in, and you see that you've been sucked in, what happens? You look at things, and they are obviously rubbish.
yeah.
But then you go, but why was I sucked in? If it's so obviously total crap, why would I get sucked in? That must mean I'm not awake yet. That's a
And then you believe
motivator.
that one.
Yeah,
Then you
yeah,
believe that one.
that's a good one.
Yeah, yeah.
That's got
It
barbs.
is a good one.
Yeah, yeah.
It is. It's like watching a comedy show, um, where they're desperately trying to convince you that you're like that you're on stage with them, and that that you have to get up and join in.
Mm, mm.
But I guess you don't. It's frustrating because it feels like no matter how many times I recognize it, I'm still suckered in by the next one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get it. I mean, it is frustrating for sure, that kind of thing. Um, but if we one thing to consider is it's not Feta one stuff. Okay, it's not about you seeing through the illusion of a self. What it's about is doubt. It's Feta two stuff, just doubt that comes up. So have you heard the idea that your thoughts, that mind, whatever you want to call it, the appearance of your thoughts is just the same as any of your other physical senses. In that you have a thought and then you respond to it, just the same as if any of your senses get stimulated, you'll respond to that sense. So let's say you're outside and there's you're out in the open and you experience a breeze on you, right? Depending on the nature of that breeze, you might want to put a jumper on, or you might be quite happy for it. It might feel really good. It might feel whatever, but you respond to it. So if you consider that your thoughts are a bit like that breeze, they're just going to be there no matter what you do. They're going to be there, and they're going to have a particular flavour about them that's really habitual, probably. It's not about not having thoughts. It's really about how much you respond to them. And when you recognise that pretty well all your thoughts are not useful, except for maybe entertainment purposes, then you can simply allow them to be there and not take any notice of them. It's the irony is that you use up so much energy with this thought thing. And,
So true.
yeah,
I think the problem can be that if I feel like if I don't do anything,
yeah,
if I kind of allow or I'm just like, yeah, cool, do your thing,
yeah,
then I'll be just not lost in thought. I know I'm not lost, but
yeah.
like
I get it.
hypnotized by thought for like 15 minutes, and I've got no idea where I am or what I'm doing because I'm just so like down a rabbit hole of bouncing thoughts. And then so it feels like there needs to be some level of not fight, but I need to relate to them in some new way because the habit is so strong to go down with them, to follow them, to be obsessed by them. So
So all
it's
that
like trying to
effort
find a
works, doesn't it?
balance. Hmm?
All that effort works. It works for you?
No, definitely not. No, definitely
Oh,
not.
okay. Here's an open secret. There's no such thing as being awake or liberated or enlightened. Or maybe there is, but I don't know about it. What what there is an evolution, an ever changing situation, a different learning different responses to what comes into our life, dismissing a whole lot of things that we used to take for granted, that we used to believe were actual, were reality, and now seeing that they're pretty much a load of hot air and no longer automatically responding to them the way we used to once. You know, that's call it what you like, but it's an evolution.
Mm.
It never happens for those who have a big epiphany and they go flying off into this wonderful bliss land place. They always come down. Sooner or later, they'll come down. So if I could give you the gift of no longer having to resist, having to fight thoughts, all of a sudden they just took on exactly the same flavour as the breeze outside. Sometimes they might get to be a pretty strong wind, and sometimes they're not there, hardly noticeable at all unless you wet your finger and hold it up, and then you can feel a breeze that you didn't know was there. But essentially, they'll vary, but they'll be there. But that doesn't mean that you have to take notice of them. Some thoughts demand, with a sense of urgency, they demand you engage with them. Other thoughts couldn't give a shit whether you took any notice of them or not. They just float on by anyway. They do their thing. But that very occasionally a useful thought might come along. It'll tell you it has a certain flavour, so you don't have to worry about being lost all the time. What you'll get lost in is much more, and I'm not talking about totally anything, but much more appreciative of what comes in through the five physical senses. So you'll be blown away by what you see and what you hear and the feel of the breeze, and those kind of things will take on a different level. It's really, really hard to get across to people that what they take to be the real world is their mental construct of it. And they relate to that mental construct, but they believe it's real. Try and tell them something different and they'll shoot you or hang you or something. They don't like that. But it's a reality, and so this is so we're allowed to leave them to their world. That's okay. It's got to be the way it is. But we can go on and discover a new world where we're not relating to labels all the time. That's all. And you're well and truly on the way. There is no question about that. Okay, so the idea of getting out a pressure gauge or a tape measure or anything to decide where you are or how far you're on is just a total waste of time and a bit laughable too. You'll get to the point where you'll see how humorous it is when you go, "Oh, I wonder where I'm up to. Am I nearly there yet?" Yeah. And it is the kid in us that says that, I think. Yeah, yeah. And imagine what would you do with all this energy that used to keep you so busy in your head when it's no longer required? Wow, wow. You'll have to take on a new hobby just to use it up.
Yeah. That'd be nice. How yeah, what's the right? Do you have any advice for actually how to go about doing that? I think I've got into such a strong habit of being so anti-thought.
Yeah, I definitely. Yeah, that's not a good.
You know, it's like, how do I actually like, is there any, have you got any tips about just kind of letting them be, just
Well, I mean,
letting them be without being them, you know?
yeah, sure, yeah. I mean, I can't give you advice that's not not a bit of a joke, um, but I can relate my own experience, I guess, and what jumps out at me, what really comes to mind when you ask that is, um, be friends with your thoughts. Right? Imagine you got a mate that is a really good friend that knows you so well that when he starts yapping on about some drivel that he usually goes on about, you can tell him to shut up, and he happily will. He does not take offence because he knows you're just not interested in it, right? Treat your thoughts like that friend. That's the
Mm.
way you want them to be. So you can tell them to fuck off, leave me alone. I'm not interested at the moment, and they'll do it. They will. They'll just recede into the. They'll still be there, but they'll recede into the background, and they won't demand your attention.
Mm.
Right?
It's
It's
beautiful.
flavour more than anything in particular. We are taught from kindergarten on that it's really good to be smart and really bad to be dumb. So we put our mind up on a pedestal right from the beginning, and we all through school we're continuing to do that. All through school we go, oh, okay, if little Tommy tried harder, he would do better. Yeah.
I
What
like
we
that.
what
That's
we're
really great advice.
discovering is that it takes no effort to go through life, no effort whatsoever. It's like we're on a big slippery dip or slide, and we're going wherever life takes us, no matter what we want. Mm.
May I share what happened in my case with like attention was really going into a mental space? Tom, IFS, parts. It's
Yeah.
basically they are just like thirsty, hungry, seeking for attention. They want to be heard. They just want to be here as any other senses or anything else. So, like what I start to do, because for me, like detaching that story, detaching that thoughts, getting away from thoughts, it just didn't work. More I did that, more they really insisted, like, hear me, hear me, hear me, give me attention. And I was, like more I was pushing away, that word was coming up, dismissed, dismissed. So I just like, it just doesn't work. So I just like, like children come to you, daddy, 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 and you just fully allows them to express what they want to say, and just like, yes, darling, yes. And this, like I remember there was this something was triggered, and there was just like this, like really like flow that like blaming and shaming and complaining and calling them names, and you just allow it all, just come it out, come out, come out, come out. Once that settles, you just go into sensations and just feel it and just feel it and just
Thank you. Yeah.
this year, leave it to release first and then go in. That would help in my case. And more you do that, like they get what they want. They want to be heard, they want to be loved and just seen and all that, the same as anything. And once you do more that, it's just like they just come because they know they are allowed to be here. They know they are allowed to be expressed the way they want to be expressed. So they don't need to demand your attention anymore. They just, like settle down and settle down and settle down, like kids, really like kids.
Thanks, Hannah. Yeah, I feel the same with, it's like if I feel the same as you in that if I kind of ignore them, then they become much more insistent. It's like they feel ignored, I guess, in some bizarre way. So yeah, that definitely helps. Thank you.
It's, like, it's imagine like if child comes to you and you just push it away, just no, I don't want to hear you. I don't want to hear you now. Like, and the child is going to insist, like, hear me. I have something to tell you. Like, I have so much to tell you. That's okay. Let's sit down and just express what you want to tell me. Yes, darling. Yes, that's exactly as you're saying. Yes, they're bad people. Yes, they are annoying you. Yes, I understand you're hurting. Just like this. And it's just like, ah. And then you just feel it, just feel it, just feel it. That's what works for me.
Thanks, Anna.
You can kind of look at it a bit like stages. So the first step is to become unembroiled with our thoughts. Once we've got them in that position where they'll just do their thing in the background and not demand attention, then we develop a different way of looking at our thoughts, what they're trying to tell us, which is never about their content. It's about the fact that they're there under those circumstances. So then at that point we use it to deepen us, but one step at a time. And get that compulsion to take notice of them out of the road. It's pretty accurate to say they're probably 99% shit anyway. And 80% of the thoughts that do turn up in a day, and could be 70,000 thoughts or something, 80% of them are repeats from yesterday. But they are our friends. They're not our enemy, definitely not our enemy. They're friends. They're trying to do the right thing by us.
Yeah, I did that thing where you like just speak aloud every thought that comes up once for a few hours, and I just sounded like an insane person, just repeating the same information over and over and over and over and over again. And I was like, oh wow.
Yeah.
it's just like constantly ticking over, isn't it? It's just, yeah, it's like it'd be, yeah. Thank you for the advice, because getting it to the point where it's just happening, it's just background noise, and it's not this problem anymore. It would be such a relief. It really would.
Well, it might sound a little bit like a bit, I don't know how to put it, a bit cheesy to say, but it's really true, and that is that there are no such thing as problems. What we consider a problem is indeed an opportunity. But we have to make space to see that. That's kind of partly what's happening at this stage. Yeah. And there's no problems about looking ahead a little bit. So you can amuse yourself by considering that the value of a thought when it turns up isn't what it's about at all. That's always a decoy. What the thought is about, but the fact that it's there, the fact that it was triggered to be there, will tell you something. So that's something that you can kind of sneak a sideways look at over the next week or so while you disengage from obsession with thoughts.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because actually, it's not like I'm constantly stuck in them. There's a big movement towards not, but it just, there's these times where it's really obvious where, and I say there's this kind of tug of war going on. But it's like you say, when you kind of look under the thought and then look at the feelings, and like Anna was saying as well, there's always some underlying feeling somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's always, it's like a furnace that's like, and all the thoughts are like bubbling up from that furnace, and so it's like trying to get away from the bubbles and actually get into the furnace and kind of like, get into those feelings. So yeah.
Also, Violet, she had very good point. She says, like, this is a thought. Imagine like a whiteboard, write that thought on, delete it, and write different thought. Is there any difference between them? Does one has more importance and value in that? Or she also said that some thoughts, speak it loud and feel how it feels in your body when you speak in it. Just pay attention to reacting on the thought. And then sometimes what have noticed, like here, like that thought comes up, like, and that's just like a sticky label. And then you just look where can you stick this label on? There is nothing to stick that label on. And it's just like gone.
How about you, Sylvia? How have you been? You're muted.
Sorry.
Yep, now we can hear you.
I didn't come on Saturday because I had a little bicycle accident about 10 days ago.
Oh.
I bumped my head quite badly. And I was a bit like confused for a few days. And on Saturday, I just forgot, I'm having some insurance problems. I won't tell you the whole story because it's not very interesting, but what happens for me is that I could really notice once again, because I have been able to notice this in the last years various times, that when I'm involved in something with like the institutions or with some, how could you say, some bigger structure, like in this case, the insurance is like, they don't want to, I feel, how can I say, when there is some injustice involved, what for me is injustice, I feel like there is something in me that precipitates into an identification. And when the young man, Tom, I think it was, said, he mentioned the word fairness. I wake up at night and sometimes also during the day, it's like an explosion in here. It triggers something which is difficult to describe, but it must be close to fear. I feel like I have been sitting with these feelings for years and years, since my awakening, which was all at once, one of those, And from there on, I knew that I had to sit with these feelings, and I have actually done it. And I can sit with this feeling in the night because it comes up more in the night. So for hours, for 1 hour, 2 hours, until I'm so tired at the end, I fall asleep again. Maybe I sleep half an hour and then it's again exploding, It seems I cannot, so far I haven't been able to, this hasn't decreased in any way. So I know that, how can I say? Well, all those things that there's not a me and all those stuff, it doesn't seem to help. And so it's a feeling in the body, or everything. It's every time. It's always similar. and it has always to do with like explosions, like fear, like a fire here. And I feel I get in, when I follow the feeling, I follow the feeling, I follow the feeling, I make it bigger. I come to a point, which is always the point that I seem to die. And so I say, okay, so die, die once and for all. And it doesn't seem to happen once and for all, So I'm struggling with these things.
Mm. And that's been with you for a long time?
Oh, yes. This feeling has been with me since I was 20,
Oh, okay.
on and off. When I was 20, well, this is a little bit of a story, but it might be interesting. When I was 20, I smoked a joint once. One of the joints I smoked, I wasn't used to smoking many joints, but it has happened a few times. And in this particular joint, I had what seemed to be awful hallucinations, and it lasted the whole night. Not going into details, but years later, after I had my first child, I realized that these hallucinations were my birth.
Okay, yep.
It was about being squeezed. It was all about, physical things, about lacking of air and all stuff like that. Only when I was in a room with my friends and there was no lack of air, there was nobody squeezing me. This went on for many, many hours. From that time, from that experience on, I have had these feelings on and off that have accompanied my whole life. It went away for quite a long period of time. When I had this awakening, it seemed like gone. Nothing, no, not even the memory of it almost, and total peace. And then it came back. Well, I can say it might not be that terrible as before, but it's still very intense. It still wakes me up from sleep and all those all that stuff.
So when it came back, did anything else change for you as well?
When it came back, did anything else change? What do you mean?
Did that seem to happen by itself, that those experiences started happening again, or were there other things that also returned?
Yes. Well, the experience that precipitated this again was a phone call with my daughter, who was living at that time with a boyfriend, and she was feeling very, very bad. And that made, and something in here clenched.
Yep.
That was the first the first time I had it again. But now it doesn't seem to come up, for example, with that kind of issues. It's triggered more with institutional stuff like this. Like when I was in Colombia, I had a problem with immigration service that triggered one of those experiences that, wow, it lasted for a month until I had this sorted out. Every night I would wake up in sweat and totally, and then I was calm again. And now with this stuff with the insurance again.
Yep. So if you were to try and use one sentence to to describe all of those different institutional issues that turn up for you and trigger this, what would it be? What is there in common between every one of those?
They're abusive.
They're abusive. So, and they're always by institution, by bureaucracy that do it. So it's
Either
unfair. Is it
it's
unfairness of
unfair.
conditioning?
Unfair. Unfair is a better word.
Yes.
Yes.
And of course, when you're the victim of unfairness, you're helpless as well. Is that true?
You know, what happens here is that something in here starts fighting, like, no, I'm not accepting this. No, 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 no.
Yep. And that's what the explosion is about.
Probably when I have the explosion at night, I don't really sort it out with my head. I just feel it.
Yes.
But now in the daytime, if I have to summarize it, I would say, yes, it's this whole fight between me not wanting to accept. This came up already 2 weeks ago here in the same meeting. Something doesn't want to accept.
Yes. Yeah.
But I really think it's true. I mean, I'm believing it. Even now, I'm believing it. Why should I accept? I mean, I have 2 insurances, 2. I pay a lot of money, and why don't they want to pay? They are trying. They are sneaky. So there is really a belief here.
Yes. So what we need to do is recognize what triggers these experiences for you, but not the specifics of the conditions that trigger them. The flavor of the conditions that trigger them is what we need to look at, because that's then what's in common. So it's not the insurance company, it's not the water board, it's not the council, it's not federal government, it's not any of those. They're just innocently triggering something in you that goes back a long way. Does that feel like it's right for you?
Except, yes, it feels it's right, except the word innocently, because I don't believe it's very innocent.
Okay, right. So that tells me that you and I have got something to look at in terms of your ideas about agency and control. For you to think that they are in control and that they can intentionally have a certain outcome also tells me that that's a belief you've got about yourself.
Yes, I guess so. I guess that belief, in spite of all, is still surviving.
Yes. And of course
Yes.
it can be huge too, because the idea that if I don't have control, then I'm helpless and things are going to go really bad, is the closest to the surface for all of us, isn't it? Yeah. So the way that we need to change that one, we need to recognize, which means we need to discover that any idea that we used to have about ourself being in control, being able to intentionally have a particular outcome, make choices, decisions, have intention, that those things are not in our control. Right? So experiencing that, not thinking about it, but experiencing that is something that we need to introduce you to somehow. How can you experience that? Because it's that experience of that that will bring about the trust that everything will work out the way it needs to work out, which is the way it is anyway, but it's overlaid with this idea that you have to exert effort in order to go forward in life.
Yes.
So if I point you to say an obvious example, it would be when you got up out of that chair before and went and did something and then came back and sat down in that chair, I'll bet you did not once think of how to place your feet in order to make that happen. You got up, you walked across the room, you did what you were going to do, and you walked back across and you turned around and you sat down. A brilliant bit of footwork that happened absolutely by itself, right? There was not one idea of you having to look after it. Well, all of life works exactly like that. So those things where you think, will I or won't I, will I or won't I, will I or won't I, yes, I'll do that. That's just something, another experience. It's not actually tied to the doing of that. If the doing of that does happen, and it may not, often it doesn't, you yourself, I guess, have realised that you've had intentions to do something, and then next thing you realise is that you've forgotten about it and you were doing something else. That happens for you too?
Sure.
Yeah, to all of us, of course. So what I want to see happen is it's my fantasy, of course. What I want to see happen is you're walking across the room sometime in the near future, and all of a sudden your mind will go down to what your feet are doing, and you'll just be go, wow, look at that, look at my feet doing that walking thing. And as a result of that, right, it will just break the spell. It'll just take one thing like that to happen, and all of a sudden the spell will be broken, and you'll realise that any ideas of control are just ideas. They're just post-it notes stuck on top of reality. But because of your what shall we call it? Your thing about fairness and institutions and so on, I'll bet that relates back to some childhood experience you had, and it very likely was school. School would be a good thing for institutions, yes?
I had very nice times at school. I was very lucky with school. I cannot blame school, but I know, because I have done a lot of therapy on this, and I know that it's exactly the same feeling that I had when I smoked that joint of marijuana and when I was born, because I have done so many therapies, and it's that feeling that it's like something is exploding here. It's like feels like there is almost like a volcano wanting to explode. And this is, I'm convinced, I'm convinced because of these things I saw during the therapies I did, that it all leads to this birth of this body, where this body could not breathe. It was such a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like I'm reproducing. It looks like every excuse is good enough. Before it was any kind of experience. Now it's it's left with institutional stuff, especially. No, I don't know exactly. Maybe because I was in a foreign country, and I don't know. Anyway, I'm not sure that the institution is the real cause.
Yeah.
It's like a pretext now.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I'd like to share with you that I once in my many years of seeking also did some rebirthing therapy, and a similar experience to you. I recognized that the birth just went on and on and on and on for so long, and everybody was exhausted. But one of the things that I came out of that with was that my mother was a helpless innocent, also totally exhausted by the experience. It was not something that I should blame her for, and I was blaming her before that. So I learned something about that one. So I guess I relate my own experience to what you're telling me about that. But I can see that could be also that could stimulate the feeling of it being unfair. Just the fact that you're trapped in there, you're trapped in the birth canal and you can't get out. Yeah.
This is my feeling: being trapped,
Yes.
being unfairly trapped.
Yes.
This is exactly the feeling.
Having no choice, being not able to do anything but what is demanded of you. Yeah.
So I'm asking myself since many years, how am I going to dissolve this?
Yes. Okay. Well, first thing that comes to mind is that it's not those circumstances that you describe that are the issue here, right? So we're not needing to resolve anything about the actual birth. What we do need to look at is how we responded to this, and how we responded isn't fixed in time. It's not like when it was happening or straight afterwards or when you were 3 years old or whatever. Over a period of time, probably there developed a certain let's say a certain feeling about what happened. Um, it would be only without all of that therapy, you probably wouldn't even remember that. You probably wouldn't even be able to contact that. But with that, you did open up something. So it's what that experience triggered for you is what we need to look at, not the experience itself. The experience itself has got nothing to do with it. It was how you responded to that experience, what formed, what developed in you as a result of that. That's where the juice is for you. That experience itself was just the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's a bit of a recursive one because it kind of it grows on itself. Like the fact that it did take so long and you're totally exhausted and totally feeling helpless and so on. And so whenever you get in a touch of that, just a tinge of that, whenever circumstances do that to you again, right, up comes this, I would see it as rage, that this volcano that wants to explode is anger that you've been holding in forever and ever. Maybe, I'm not saying it is, but that's what it feels like to me. And so, the idea of letting it out, of letting it explode out, just seems like a death sentence. It's just too much. It's too big. We always have to go at the right pace towards these things so that we don't want to trigger a running away from it, but we also want it to be more than nothing. So we've got to approach it with just the right amount of juice, and when we can get that close to it, we can just soak in the experience a little bit, see it clearer, See, while you've got that explosion ready to happen, it's going to stop you from seeing it at all because of the fear involved with letting all that out. You know, you'll become the Hulk, and you'll want to destroy everything if you let it all out in one go, kind of thing. You know, yeah. But you've got tools. You know, you're in a good position to be able to see what this is about and to work your way through it. But just remember, everything that your common sense tells you, everything that your mind tells you that is what you've got to work through, is also just a decoy, because that's what the mind does. It's a decoy always from away from what's really going on, because what's really going on is at the body level, and the decoy is always at the mental level. Not always, but yeah, frequently it is at the mental level. Just wanting to seduce you away down rabbit holes into stories about things. And so when you get involved in all of the details of what happened at your birth, for example, it's seductive. It's really, really easy to get pulled right into what went on and what that explains and so on. But it's a decoy. It's what came out of that. That's the issue, not that in itself.
I very agree with you, Vince, on that anger, because it feels for me like that as well. That is just that powerlessness coming from repressed anger, and that explosion. It is an anger energy sitting there looking for outlet. It's very, very powerful energy, and once it start coming up, it's like it does a lot on the body.
Yeah.
Like,
well, of course, let's ask Sylvia if that feels right for her, rather than tell her that that's the way it is for her. Does that ring a bell for you, Sylvia?
It seems logical, but to tell you the truth, I don't connect so much to the anger part, but more to the fear part, to the fear. I am in a fright. I feel like I'm in a total fright.
Yep.
Not well, there could be, especially when I speak about the institutions, of course there is some anger when I see the injustice and stuff like that. There comes up maybe some anger, but it's more what is for me overwhelming is the fear.
Yep. Okay, I get it. Yeah. So with fear, you would expect that the body is going to want to contract in.
Yes, this is the sensation.
Yeah. And yet you've got this part of your chest that wants to erupt out.
It's like, how can I? The sensation is there is some lava, like something that burns. I can feel a burning. It's actually a burning inside. I don't know if it wants to erupt. I want to get rid of it.
Okay, yeah, that's different. Yeah, we get it. Yeah.
But the burning is definitely there. It's a burning sensation. It might be, it just comes to mind now because I don't really think or try to remember things from my birth. But now, just speaking like this, since you're asking, it comes to my mind that after I smoked this joint when I was 20, and I had this body feeling, this very strong body feeling, I went to my mom and I asked, come on, not when I was 20, when I realized after having given birth myself, I realized, I went to my mom and said, could you tell me about my birth? And then she told me, because I didn't even know before. And she said, I was for a long time without breathing. And probably this first inhale was like burning the lungs. It just, it's just an idea that came to me now.
Sure, yeah.
I'm thinking it for the first time. Maybe, I don't know if it makes sense, maybe not.
Yeah, they don't have to make sense. Those I put value on those things. Yes, they're like intuition talking to you. Yeah, I go.
Could be. Anyway, the burning feeling is there, especially when I wake up at night. And often when I wake up in the morning, I wake up like this. And the first thing I feel is the burning. And then after a couple of minutes, it's gone.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
So after years and years of sitting with this, still there. I know one is not supposed to sit with it to make it go away, but that's having like an agenda, right? It's just, I just wonder, is there something I can do? Like Tom, who was talking about his thoughts, is there something I can do? Here is the same with feelings.
Yeah, it's a trick. It's a trick, that one, to say, what can I do? Like it's an idea I've got to fix something, which of course is down the wrong road, so to speak. You are doing it. Okay, so in a way, the fact that you've talked about it tonight, right, seems like not much, but it is something. So we wake it up by talking about it, and then you can get the opportunity then to look at it in a different light to what you've seen it in before. So I would say that this is a gift for you that can teach you more than one thing. And right at the moment, what it's offering you as a teaching is patience. But maybe patience isn't the right word either, because that's forward-looking, isn't it? But acceptance. There's an opportunity for you. So we accept that in the background, in the back of our mind, there is this story that says, wouldn't it be good if it never happened anymore? Right? And then we just flick that story off with our thoughts over there into the background and let them do their own thing, right? And from that point on, you're not wanting it to go away. You're wanting it to come and be there, so that you can examine it, so that you can see it more clearly. So that you can focus on it in such a way that it reveals what it sits on and becomes unnecessary. And so that's how it goes away. It doesn't go away because of any effort that we put into it. It goes away because we see what it's about and it becomes unnecessary. So yes, there is that idea in the back of your mind that we want to get rid of it. But as soon as we give that any importance, well, all we're really doing is making sure it doesn't go away. What we resist becomes stronger. So what we want to do is be able to examine it more closely, and to do that we have to be friendly with it. We have to get closer and closer to it. But because it is, as you say, it feels like fear. an analogy that I frequently use, you'll hear me say, we want to poke the bear, but we don't want to wake it up and get it all angry. We just want to get it to stir, to turn over. Just poke it enough to make it uncomfortable enough so that it shifts, rather than wake it up and have it chase us out whatever. So that's it. We're looking for this Goldilocks amount of energy in it that gives us something to look at that's significant. It's got a bite, but not so much that we have to escape from it. Because the way it is at the moment, when it's released fully, that's what happens. We want to escape from it. We want it to end. We wish it wasn't there.
Yes, maybe I was asking myself the other day, I was listening to Pernilla, and she, well, you know that, as you know, I just met her a couple of weeks ago. It's all very new for me. But I hear her repeating again and again, you sit with the feeling with love and compassion, you know. So I said, I just realized, you know, I have sat with the feeling. I can say that I have been able to sit with the feeling for years, but not with love and compassion.
Mm.
And
That's all
so,
the difference, isn't it? One is you've got your back to it, and the other one you're facing it.
yes, but still now that I was trying last night, I was trying to wake my love and compassion, to wake it up from sleep, not together with the feeling, with the burning feeling, you know, but it's awfully difficult to have love and compassion for this.
It's a progressive thing too, of course. So don't, we're not worried. So you might start by talking to it. Just talk to it like it has intelligence, and ask it, what is it you're trying to show me? What are you trying to tell me? What is it you want me to see? Just talk to it like that, and don't even expect an answer. But if you do get an answer, it'll come from intuition. It'll come as a thought. It'll present itself as a thought to you, but it will have a different flavour. You'll kind of know something about it. If it does decide to answer you when you ask those questions, but try that for a few nights or a few
Okay,
times. Yeah, just
I
talk.
will try that.
Yeah, but talk to it
Yeah.
like it's. Don't be, don't be condescending, but kind of talk to it like it's a child. It's innocent. Yeah.
It looks like a monster, but it's innocent.
Yes, it is innocent, and it's your friend. It looks like a monster. I get that, but that monster is your friend. Pernilla will often say,
Let me write this down, because I have a tendency to forget.
what you think is your problem is actually a solution.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. It's true, yeah. But you have got the tools, and using them pretty well. So what you're looking for as each time you experience this from now on is, how much is it the same as last time, as my memory of last time? So each time it occurs, that's another question you can ask it, as well as, what is it it's trying to show you?
Okay. taken notes. I will try that. Then I will let you know.
Yes, thank you.
If
Good.
there's any difference, any progress,
Yep.
I will let you know. Thank you very much.
What your discoveries are, that's what we want to know. Yes. Good stuff. How's things for you, Lee?
Really good, thanks.
Did you get any value out of our last meeting?
When was our last meeting?
Oh, I don't remember when. I just remember that it happened. Yeah. I don't actually remember what we spoke about either, but I remember that we did speak.
Oh, I remember. It was the Ramiz meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was a good one, yeah.
Mm.
But you were, I mean, it's always stupid to compare people, but I'm thinking that you were a little bit like where Tom is today. You know, you were talking about those few doubts that turned up, if I remember rightly. I don't remember what they were, but was that right?
Yeah, I think 2 weeks ago was when I was also identified as the person who was trying to let go. And it's wild that we can identify as that. Yeah.
So what happened to that person that was trying to let go? Is he still around?
Well, sometimes there will be thoughts about letting go, but those are not, those are seen through to be not from the perspective of what I am, which is, I don't even know anymore.
Great, good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the idea that I am anything is an anchor chain to a conceptual reality. So,
Yeah. But
instead of pulling the anchor in, let's just throw the whole chain over the side.
yeah, it's just an unwinnable game of
Absolutely.
itself fighting itself
Yep.
until it lets go. Not you let go, but it, yeah.
Yeah, till it happens. That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well put. I like that. Yeah.
But it's also not that the idea or the thought of I am or I want or I do doesn't arise. It's just seen from a completely different viewpoint, or not a viewpoint at all.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Again, the time will come when there's no obvious hooks into identification with anything really, but the almost, but not quite, the very last link to be broken is that there's still a flavour, there's still an essence, just a hint, almost just an aroma of a me that's hanging around there. It's just so hard to let that one go in at the end, but it really is just that, but very subtle. We get to be very subtle stuff there. Yeah. So it's just so almost astounding for me to consider that rather than having an abstract that I am nothing, because that's no more true than I am everything or I am something. They're all just ideas. I really like the concept of what I am is a mystery. It's just an unexplainable, incomprehensible mystery, and that's kind of like I can identify with that because I'm not identifying with anything other than that lack of everything, or whatever, or it could be anything. Who knows? Could be anything. You know, I might just be code in a computer. I have no idea what it is that I am. Yeah. Just love the freedom that gives me. That just shouts out liberation. I just love that one so much that I just cannot possibly know, and I really don't care. No point in chasing it at all. Yeah. And even the bits I do know, like this hand, wow, or these eyes, I'm just blown away by the way that they work. That's magic. That is pure magic. That stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Exhilaration.
Yeah, yeah, that's nice. And I think I was also stuck on the I am nothing for a while. Maybe everyone just goes through that.
Yeah, I guess a lot too. It's so yeah. It's interesting when you look at if you use the Feta model as a way of looking at uh, from different perspectives at what we might still where we still might have identification. Um, when we get when we get to the second five, they they often say the higher five, but that's I don't know. Anyway, it's the second five. So then you get the way the Buddhists put it is they put that your I forget the words now. Your obsession with form is number six, five and six, four and five, five and six, five and six. Yeah. So five is your obsession with form, and six is your obsession with the formless. You know, and that's kind of pretty amazing because when you get rid of the idea that form actually exists, then you go, well, therefore it must be formless, you know, and then it turns out to be, well, that's the same thing. You know, there's no difference between form and formless if we look at it from that perspective. They're exactly the same. So yeah, it's a bit of a trick. The absence of something is not the opposite of something. It's much more complicated than that. Mm.
Yeah, I remember working with the form feather and reading about the next feather and thinking this doesn't make any sense. And I could not accept that.
Yeah. Yeah, because none of it does make sense. That we're getting beyond. Yeah, even involvement with the mind is starting to take a back seat at that point. Yeah.
Hmm.
Have you been, Dennis?
Hey Vince. Hey everyone. Yeah, like Sylvia there, I was taking a few notes. I've never done that before, just kind of see what I wanted to talk about. I was just noticing how Lee seems to be in a very still and empty place. And it's sort of a desire or to know that place. What's kind of been coming up for me lately is I feel like I'm doing a lot of futuring, a lot of, what's next into the future. Um, there's been disappointment in relation to my job search and kind of getting no's for certain jobs, and even though think I've landed one now, and I noticed when you were talking to Sylvia and even catching the end of Tom's chat, everyone's conversations really resonate. It's like, yeah, that's me, that resonates with me, but the mind is trying to catch up afterwards to try and formulate what it means and what it is and how it, actually, so I can get a grip of it. So I was just noticing that sort of knowing before the mind can even catch up and know, which is interesting. And then kind of what I wrote down as well was fear. Was Sylvia was talking about fear, and that's definitely something I've lived with. And I kind of wrote down a fear of fear is really where it's at. The fear of no control. And I had a weird experience the other day. I was up getting my motorbike, getting the back tire done on it, and I was in the shop and I just tried on a helmet. And as soon as I put the helmet on and I kind of clicked the thing underneath, it was a different fastener that I was used to. And right in that minute, there was terror and panic that I wouldn't be able to get the helmet off. Just went into a kind of a blind panic, flicked up the visor so I could breathe, and then spent 30 seconds trying to work the release to get it off so I could take the helmet off. And I was like, wow, what was that? Like, that's the real antithesis of that sort of fear or that trapped feeling, or sort of, it's been in me a long time. And the other thing I'm noticing, there's a couple of other things kind of being held to account. It's like anything I do that's slightly off or maybe incorrect or it maybe isn't to my best ability, I'm being held to account to a much higher standard. And I remember Haji Shanti talking about this years ago at a retreat, that when you're totally kind of asleep at the wheel and just doing your thing, life gives you lots of leverage. But as you become more aware and more, I don't know, accountable, the slightest little white lie or kind of thing, you're held to account really strongly. And I just noticed that the last couple of weeks as well as a thing, that I have to be very careful about what I say, what I do, how I behave. And then I was just the other little piece, the other thing I was thinking about lately, because I've been meeting up with a kind of group, an Angelo group, and some of the people are part of this too. And we were just chatting about, awakening Kensho, the process where people are at. And I'm striving hard for, to awaken to, as Angelo calls it, Kensho or whatever. And some people were saying, like, are you sure you haven't already had that shift? And I was doubting and I was questioning and I was wondering, because it was in my mind that as well, have I had it? Have I had it already? Or were those just glimpses? Were those things years ago just like lifting of the veils or, experiences? And I'm still chasing the awakening. But if there was a doubt there that maybe I'm keeping myself caught with the chasing of awakening, that first step, when it could have already happened. And even as I'm saying, I'm going, this is bullshit. It hasn't happened. If it had, why would I be the way I am? But so there's a load of ensemble, Vince. I don't know what stuck or what sticks. That's where I'm at the minute.
Mm. Yeah, that was good. Thanks. Yeah.
Could I share something with you, Dennis?
Yeah,
Um, about the, self-criticism, self-judging about what you say, what you do, whether it's the right thing. And it's not just self, it's to all others too. It's like, do you know what karma is?
to be honest, I've heard lots of ways of it being stated and lots of ideas around it, but I don't really know what it is. Cause and effect. If I put my hand in the fire, I'm going to feel it burning. I don't, in truth, I don't really know.
Right. So Rob Burbea had a very good analogy, way of explaining karma, which is like if you're overworked at night, you're sleep deprived, and the next morning you have to catch a train, and you're super tired, you're late to pack your things because you had too much work in the morning, and then you rush your way to catch the train, and you make it on time, and you get on the train, and you're like, oh shit, have I left my keys at home? So basically, what karma is it's about how everything that happens is based on conditions, whether it be present or past conditions, or conditions in your mind, or conditions in the outside world, where you're only here now, sitting here in this group because I don't know how you got to know of all this, but maybe because one day, you search something on Google, the algorithm served to you non-duality, this kind of thing. You're only here having these thoughts that you have right now because of which parents you were born to. Your entire life has only happened because of the conditions that were needed for it to happen. And that applies to everything. So I think that once that's really understood, you also let go of the judging, the criticism, that comes from the belief that you are a self that has control. This is what Vince was talking about. You know, you have agency when, if you really think about all the decisions that you make, are you really the one making them, or do they arise out of things that happened in the past, influences on your current mind state, influences on the present situation? And it does get to a point where you also can let go of, you know, where's my awakening? I want to be awakened. When's my awakening going to happen? Because you can't control, you can't get awakening. There's nothing you can do because there's no, I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
you seem like you're quite mindful and you do notice a lot of the things happening internally in your emotion, body, and your thoughts. But it's, you know, something that I also struggled with after training that concentration and mindfulness, which is just that letting go, you know, the surrender into the fact that you really are helpless. Maybe that's how you feel in the
Yeah.
helmet.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one
When
of
you
the,
first said, I was just going to say, when you first said conditions, I was kind of, well, what do you mean by conditions? But as I thought about it, it was that no control, that sort of everything's happening automatically based on, you know, if a leaf fluttered a different way 10,000 years ago, the conditions for everything are different and it's all happening and you're helpless. Yeah, I suppose I'm having to accept that, or slowly, maybe slowly that's dawning, that helplessness.
Yeah. See, our words muck us up. See, when you say helplessness, it's not quite right. Helplessness, you know, it's
Yeah, there should be freedom attached to that, Vince.
yes, yeah. So helplessness is probably the wrong word. Maybe powerlessness is probably a better word for what I imagine happened when the helmet clicked on, right? Not helpless, but powerless, right? Suddenly trapped. Choicelessness, probably. Yes, yeah.
That's a more neutral statement. Yeah.
But can you see, this is the thing, especially when you mentioned you know, future fantasies. Can you logically imagine that what the purpose of a future fantasy is to take you away from the present?
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
So
yeah,
it's
the whole job thing at the moment seems to be the latest thing the mind is using to keep me out of the present, because I've been doing a lot of, you know, feeling into the body, emotions, and just being. And the mind is acting up again now. Well, you need to get a job. When you get the job, and there's all sorts of problems. And I sent an email, and 2 seconds after I sent it, I was like, "Oh, I shouldn't have sent that. Oh no, I made a mistake." Oh, and it was, but then there was a part of me that came in later and was kind of going, "Don't worry about that. That was meant to happen. That happened. That's what happened." The mind going, "Oh, you shouldn't," is immaterial. So there was that sort of knowing a little bit,
yes,
you
yeah,
know,
that's
a
you're
little bit
right.
later. Um, but the mind can't wrap its head around it. It's like that sort of, you know, nobody's controlling anything, and if you think you have control, well, then, you know, utilize it. But otherwise, if you realize you don't, you don't. So I'm kind of caught somewhere in the middle of all that,
Yeah, yeah.
having to
And
fully let go.
realizing that you haven't got control isn't the same as having control that you no longer have. You never did have control. So nothing's been taken away from you except the idea that you had control. if you had control once and it was now taken away from you, I can imagine, you know, what that scenario might be. But this is not what happens. The realization that you never ever had control anyway, and that things still happened.
Yeah.
What needed to happen did happen. And so like Tyler's story about conditions, that's why things happen, because all of conditions that are required for that happening, they all exist and they're all lined up the right way, and then a happening happens. But how many of those conditions can we influence? Not, don't use the word control. Let's say, can we influence a couple? There's 60,000 conditions involved in any happening, and we can personally influence 2 of them. So we, you know, even if that's the actual case, you know, it's just a fraction of what's present to cause a happening.
But
So
we really can't even influence 2 of them.
no, well, true. But you know, what I'm saying is, you know, if an intention arises and your focus goes in a certain way, then you can say, well, that's a bit of influence. But it's just a bit of influence. It's not going to bring about the whole thing. It might or might still not happen. You know,
So that kind of, yeah, that resonates, but it brings up a fear that's probably been kind of around a long time. Like one possible, and there's probably endless possible scenarios, or only one, who knows, that life could go in a conventional sense quite badly here on in. That's just because of the conditions. You could become poor, homeless, lose your job, lose your life, lose your health, and there's nothing that can be done to stop that.
That's right. Anything is possible. But we know from our prior experience, we know from our history what is more likely to happen than other things. Doesn't mean it will, just more likely. So there are certain conditions that you would expect to be present. For example, if you are about to become homeless and start sleeping on the street, or whatever scenario comes up, you know, they're more or less likely to happen depending on what's there. Of course, anything's possible, but you know.
Yeah, there's a real sense of it's over for me.
What do you mean over? You are going to be on the street tomorrow?
No, I don't even mean by like that. That's it. It's like life is over, or the way life was is over. The idea you can effort and do well, and live your dreams and make things happen, and a lot of things are so used to futuring, mapping out our life. That's all over.
Yeah.
I don't mean it in a negative way. I just mean it in an over way.
I get you. Yeah, your tone of voice had me thinking it was a negative before, but no. Okay, so well, that sounds like a pretty good thing to me. But you've yet to discover the joy of letting go of the tiller, the adventure.
Yeah, that's a lovely word, joy. Yeah, it feels like years of pain, but pain in a way that maybe for years you didn't even know it was pain. It was just what you were doing, who you were, and what you had inside you.
See it
And it's
as
just
normal.
you.
Yeah.
But like when I wake up in the morning, sometimes for that split second before you realize you're somebody, it's just peace. And then for a split second, and then it's like you're in the body, and it's like painful to be in a body. You feel like you just want to jump out of it again. But once you get up and have a cup of tea, it's fine. But for that moment, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
what's that all about? And I've had that there the last year.
Right. Well, that's something I would really value. I think that's really good stuff, that one, and could be very useful as well. So watch next time, tomorrow when you wake up and you've got that moment where that's happening. Watch yourself put back on your dentist suit. Watch watch it happening.
But it doesn't feel like I'm doing it. It's just happening.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Well, of course it does. It's like that. Yeah. But if you can see it happening,
Might jump out of the bed before it happens.
that could, yeah. You can go, wow, look at that, all by itself. Yeah. Um, but when you can see it happening, you can also, it opens up straight away the possibility of it not happening or not happening the same way. In the beginning, it'll happen differently, more so than anything else. Yeah. Yeah, it's a brilliant discovery. And letting go of the familiar can be a bit of a grief process as well. Some of that, it's over. There might be some grief involved in that.
Yeah, definitely the job hunt, which you put yourself in front of people to be judged, and it's very it can be difficult. And when you get the knockbacks, it's like, okay, yeah,
Yeah,
it's emotional. It's you're I'm kind of saying to myself, yeah, no, I'm upset about that. And that wasn't, I thought maybe that could be, and that is helpful. And then feeling some emotions. I was thinking when you were talking to Sylvia earlier with the anger, maybe getting getting a boxing bag out the back and using that as a tool to maybe see what anger is suppressed underneath and slowly work it out. Because that would be a question I'd have, how to safely work with that anger if it's there underneath stuff. Um,
yeah. Well, we most of us do have some anger bottled up in there. Yeah, but you don't need to get the bag and go at the back. Just get a pillow on the bed and give it a good thump. That works. Yeah. But this is a hard one. Remember, I say these words, but they're only words. Remember, re, whatever comes up, it's not about that. It's about why it came up, what triggered it. Always, what it
you mean
presents.
thoughts?
Yeah, well, not just thoughts, but yeah, but thoughts are a big part of that. But yeah, it can be more than that. But thoughts are a good example. So when thoughts comes up, it doesn't matter what they're about. What they're about, you can be sure, because of the wonderful creativity that our mind is, you can be sure that it will be a good suck in. It will have hooks. It'll be something you're interested in. It will invite you to chase it down the rabbit hole. But it's all a way of getting you away from what's going on now.
Yeah, and I've been doing that lately, Vince. I've been using, obviously when I'm aware enough, every thought that's triggering is like a little bell, and so I go, okay, what's that? Okay, so go into the body. What's going on? What am I feeling? Is there an emotion? And kind of going into that, using it as, I'm not following you that way. Thanks for the heads up, but I'm going this way.
Perfect. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So are you getting insights as a result of doing that?
Nothing spectacular. It's just more, this feeling wants to be felt, and it can be murky. It mightn't be clear, like, oh, I'm anger or I'm regret. It's just a feeling of something in the body, and just to feel into it and feel it, and
Yep.
just allow it to percolate, or bubble up.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, good. Yeah. And it almost it's a hard one, but there you'll start to have what you might label as synchronicities happen in your life. You'll coincidences will turn up in ways that you didn't really expect them to. That will happen more and more and more as you let go of this delusion about control.
Is that like was that, I remember something like that a couple of months back, or maybe 6 months back, a sense of synchronicity. The sense the sense is that that's nothing special, in that you're just aligned to the natural way and you're not selfing so much, and so it seems like it's synchronicities, but that's probably the normal way things might be if you weren't so
Yeah.
much in your head. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, we make it something special when we call it a synchronicity, but yeah, and it's like you you drive into a car park and you're looking for somewhere to park your car, and somebody backs out of one right in front of you and gives you that thing there, and you go, oh, that was convenient, wasn't it? It's just pure
Mm.
coincidence, you know. But if you drove in and there's no parks there, you know, you would go around further and park and do that in a nice relaxed way as well. You know, you're never going to go, well, the world's plotting against me because there's no parking places. But when there is one there, in the beginning you might go, oh yeah, that was synchronicity. That's good. It turned up. I needed one, and there was one was there for me. You know. But in reality,
Yeah,
it's just coincidence. Yeah, just the way things work. Mm.
it feels like I should just let go of the whole idea of awakening and shifts and states and wondering if I'll ever experience what all these other people are talking about, and just, the only way I can say it is be a human, like be in the body, feel.
Yep. Yeah. Well, you know, yeah, that's a good thing to do. What you say, I reckon, is a great idea. Um, but there's that thing that says, well, if I give up the search, I won't find anything. I'll go, you know. So that's going to suck you in a bit, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I was thinking about this lately a lot. The search, like I don't think, the minute I say it, it's bullshit. But I don't think I'd be on this call if I didn't, back years ago when I went on my first retreat with Adja and had these two experiences. Like they were, they showed me something was here
Mm.
beyond a doubt in my mind. Even though years later I started to doubt them, to even have those experiences. But I know I did, and 20, here we are, 20 years later, still scratching, pawing, gnawing away, doing everything you can to awaken.
Mm.
And it's like I have this idea: if I can just get to the awakening line, then they all say the rest will. It happens automatically. It'll take care of itself.
Yeah.
Now you're in the tiger's mouth, and you've no choice. At least I can relax then. I'm efforting so much to get there, and there's an exhaustion, a tiredness with life, with doing all that.
Yeah. Yeah. God, that's an age-old trap, that one. Yeah, for sure. So when those things happened to you at the Adja retreat, were you willing them on? Were you did you make them happen?
Absolutely not. I was so just relaxed in the moment. You're on retreat. You're just,
And that
everything's
happened.
accepting.
Beautiful. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So your experience shows you, tells you that that's it. There's no point in chasing it. It'll happen if it's going to happen. But what? You don't believe your experience? You don't. What? Why the effort now?
It just feels like that's what you have to do. But then I can tie myself up in a knot and go, well, hold on, it's all happening automatically anyway. So why are you blaming me for it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's great, isn't it? Oh, look, wonderful paradoxes, eh? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, you can no more give it up than you can control what does happen. You know, you can't give it up. You can't keep going. You can't do anything. All you can do is be Dennis. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy, you know, how we've put so much effort into not putting effort into it. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Actually, you reminded me of someone said what you said. They just said it a little bit differently. Then they said, imagine no matter what you did, you couldn't stop it from happening. And even no matter what you didn't do, you couldn't stop it from happening. It's a real sort of head stopper, like either or.
Mm,
You can't do anything about it. It'll happen when it happens. And that's
exactly.
quite frustrating in some ways. Only when you think about it, though.
Yeah. You were so locked into those thoughts, aren't we? But see, even just us talking about not making it happen, allowing it to happen, and you think, well, they're just words, they're just like other thoughts we've had, you know, but they become some of the conditions that may be in place when it does happen. They're seeds that we can plant that might or might not sprout. So you think, oh yeah, no, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. It's not possible for nothing to change. Things have changed from 60 seconds ago, simply because that's the way things work. Everything. I've got this story in my head that everything relies on movement. If anything were to become truly still, it would cease to exist. We have to have movement. And so everything is always moving, everything is always changing. Nothing is ever the same as it was.
Mm.
The old idea that we can't undo something that we see, we can't unsee something seen, is true. You know, we can't undo anything that's done. We can't un anything. We can only just move forward. And it's a constant evolution. But what that shows me is that change is often very subtle. We don't recognize it because it is so subtle. So knowing that things are always changing and yet saying, how am I different to what I was 5 minutes ago, seems like a joke, you know. But without doubt, there is change. It's just too subtle to notice. It's like time, you know, you don't see time passing. It's just oh, I got myself tied up with that one. Yeah.
I just feel like I've run out of things to say or
Yeah.
insights to have.
Well, I have good feelings about where you are. I think it's in a nice creative place that you're coming from. And the investigation goes on. That's the good thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Vince.
Yeah. Sylvia's got a hand up.
No, can I say something to
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Just, from just a point of view, I haven't, I think it's only my third meeting. I haven't spoken to people like you before. So you might have talked these things a lot. I have no idea. But Dennis seems to, at least this is how it lands here, seems to be speaking about doing or looking for But when awakening happened here, I wasn't even looking for that, because I didn't think that would be possible for me. Never thought it would be really like something that could happen here. In my ideas, this is something that could happen once every 1,000 years, maybe to somebody up there in the mountaintop or something like that, not to common people. So when it happened, it didn't have much to do with the doing, though I might have shared, I don't know if you were here, Dennis, that there is something I did. This thing I did, I can share it later. This thing I did was the product of all my failings. So one could almost say that awakening happened as a consequence of failing. So, you know, it was maybe one of the worst moments of my life, you know. I felt like I was hopeless. I was broken. I was hopeless. In my, if I should like give a definition of awakening, one definition might be that it is an undoing, not a doing. It's like a looking back. It's like, for me, when everything failed, I was so fed up to look into experience, either mine or, you know, so fed up of looking into the world, so to speak, that I became interested. I don't want to say it again. I feel I have shared it, did I? That exercise that occurred to me with attention, or maybe I haven't shared it. I shared it with Todd one day. So so I felt I just had a lot of suffering, and I just felt as a complete failure. And I became interested in my attention. My attention, I said, well, what's this attention? What is it actually? So this came out of me because I had nobody to speak to. I had no guide. I had nobody that was interested in this that I could share with. It was just, you know, between me and me, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I started to say, well, this attention is looking, it's constantly focusing on some object, on something, either my thoughts or my suffering, or, you know, objects of the world, whatever, constantly focused. Where does it come from? Where is its source? It's just a question that came up. And I became so curious that I started to do an exercise. Instead of going with this arrow of attention, that it looked to me that it came from around here, you know, and went towards an object. Like now it's going to the computer, to the image on the computer. So I started to see, where does it come from? Like inverting the direction of attention, going backwards. And I did that exercise. I found it interesting. I found it awfully difficult, almost impossible. But, you know, I like difficult things. So I stayed with that for a few days. And I did it maybe 1 million times a day. I tried to do it, except when I was driving, in every moment. So when I say 1 million times a day, I might be not exaggerating. I really mean that. And then on the fourth day, it was boom. It was like attention went on reverse. How do you say when you put in the car?
Yeah,
Backwards.
Yeah.
The what? What do you call that?
Reverse.
Reverse, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It went on reverse. And then I was cleaning up my room, and wow, all of a sudden there was this seeing. It was a seeing, knowing. I cannot really explain it. And I sat back on my bed, and then I had this experience which lasted many days, and I was in total bliss, etc., etc. But in the meanwhile, I also learned that this is not necessary, because this decreases after a while. And anyway, the rest is not so important. What I wanted to say is just this, that one of the realizations was really clear, that awakening is an undoing, a going back somehow, a returning. But one imagines that there is something to be reached. It's not like that. I guess the people, I don't know if the people here think the same as, see it the same way as I see it, but this is the way I could express it. It has nothing to do with the doing, except maybe being curious, looking a little bit behind the things. This is a good exercise to do. Well, which is called inquiry. I learned afterwards. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sylvia. Yeah, that resonates definitely. I think I started to do it while you were talking, and I noticed I've been doing it before. But lately I've kind of stopped. I can notice a sort of resistance to it, keeping busy with other things and just not wanting to go there. But as Lee said, you remind me of it now, so the conditions might inspire that I do it a bit more often.
How have you been, Helen? Can't hear me. Helen.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Hi.
It's better, we can see
I've been, sorry?
So that's better, we can see you now.
I've been listening to all the recordings and everything, so I've really kept abreast of it. It's just that the 2 times that UK is okay for, I'm always busy with something else, but I try and make time and obviously see them when they're being recorded. But I've been really struggling this last few weeks. I belong to, and it's the same old. I belong to a group, and we're all relatively friendly and get on all right. But I've sort of become attached to one woman that I really, we've sort of done things together. Anyway, there's this new big girl on the street, and she's come along and she's singing and dancing and all singing, and she's everything to everybody, and she can do things wonderfully, and I've sort of you know, I can feel things starting to, you know, so, but I've sort of looked at it and could deal with it and deal with it and deal with it and sort of accept it. And with that came a certain empathy with her, because she needs to be like that, and I allowed it. And one thing, anyway, she's homed in on my friend, and they're going out together, and like, oh, it's been so painful. It's been so painful. They've tried to include me a little, but I know that. Oh, it sounds so schoolyardy, but God, it's so painful, and I feel sort of left out, and I can't do all singing, all dancing, and I can't cook wonderfully, and the one thing I can do is art, and she's even doing that now. We've had some sort of art program, and she's doing it wonderfully, and she's bringing stuff in from home, and look how wonderful I am with all these things. And oh my God, she's even usurped my art. And
So-
it's really digging. It's digging in now.
So, Helen, I want you to go to the shop and I want you to buy her a thank you card with nothing written on the inside. And we'll start off with, dear whatever her name is, thank you for coming into my life. I love all this shit that you're stirring up for me.
Oh, I sort of thought I was doing so well, you know. Oh, I'm just accepting this and accepting. And then when she started homing in on my friend, I thought, oh, that's it now. Can't go. Can't go.
Yeah.
Um,
So again, can you see that it's not actually about her. It's what she
no.
triggers in you. And what she
Yeah.
triggers in you has been there for way longer than she's even been on this earth, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. It's something that's been in my life all the time, but no,
Yeah.
and in degrees of, you know.
Yeah.
But
But she's
and
come
I thought,
along and she's so extreme, just perfect, isn't it?
yeah, well, absolutely perfect, yeah.
Mm.
Because I had a big fallout with a good friend who did exactly the same, and I thought I'd sort of got over that, but I obviously haven't.
Mm.
I haven't, and it's hit me again, really.
Yep. And these
In the
things
knackers, as they say.
they'll keep coming back until we sort them out. Yeah. And if they do keep coming back and we figure we need to sort them out, then it's obviously on a deeper level, right? So we're not just recognizing that you got lost in the story is not going to be enough to dissolve that story. Right?
No.
So what we need to do, and this is a little bit of what Dennis has been doing, and that is we sit with the sensations and look for the details in the sensations, what they are. And as we move closer and closer to the sensation, the stories will drop off. Now, in this case, because it is a deeper thing, we will get, if we get intimate with the sensation, right, that is that we get really close to it, what we'll find is that it may in fact want to dissipate and go, but maybe not before it reveals another sensation that's beneath it, what it's sitting on. So if that turns up, then you've got somewhere deeper to look at. And so you could say that you know that this is something, because you've been living with it for so long, that it comes from before. You don't actually need to know the details of what it was. Just the fact that it exists is all that's really required for you to know. So in a sense, just getting closer and closer to looking at it is our aim at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I've tried it, but I think it's a big one. And it sits sort of behind my heart, and it's cold, and But I'll keep on with it. I know, because it's presented. But something wonderful came yesterday, and it was a real gift. Somebody told me about this group of artists that work together, and we're producing a quilt that's going to go on tour around Yorkshire. And I thought, what a gift! So I'm with real artists, doing arty things, and I feel privileged to have been included in this. And I thought, oh wow. So I thought, I'm going to make my own friends.
Yeah.
But
Well, see, what you just did, that's good stuff. You play up those things, because that tells you. It comes out of you spontaneously because you're kind of acting the goat and playing up on it. But there's a hint of truth on it always, and it gives you somewhere to put your focus as well. Yeah. So obviously, when we look at that, that she does everything so well, it's really, that's not the story. The story is, why don't I do anything as good as what she appears to do? Right? I don't do things so good. That's probably a big part of the story. Not that she is good, it's that I'm not as good as her. I'm not good.
Yeah.
So what you can do is you can, that bit of playing up that you did a moment ago, or you can invent sentences that sound to you like they might have some juice in them. So if you say something like, why aren't I as good as her? Think of a particular area, maybe. If and what you're looking for is what kind of an emotional response happens to that. So if you get nothing, then you need a stronger sentence. If you get a real flood of something, then you need a weaker sentence. You've just got to look for that Goldilocks amount of juice in what it is that you come up with. And remember, it's not about that. That sentence, again, just triggers something for you. And it's what gets triggered. That's where the interest is, not what triggered it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing to hear other people's triggers. And I would think, well, I could cope with that, and I could cope with that, and I could cope with that one. And then, but your own, it's like, oh.
Yeah, because they are triggers. That's right. Yeah, they're, yeah. Yeah, so what's just 4 words strung together for somebody else becomes an emotional time bomb, for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about any outcomes here. You notice we're not talking about things changing, right? What we're talking about is just discovering what's involved in this, whatever it is. Yeah. But those other things, look, outcomes will change. Look, all sorts of things might happen. You never know the outcome of stuff. And the idea that she might be taking your friend away from you, right? That's, if that happens, that's the happening or not of that, again, has got nothing to do with it. It's got to do somewhere else, some other time, when maybe somebody did that and you lost a friend and you really mourned that situation. That could have been something that's happened once. That looks like there's some juice there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And so maybe there's some grieving, and grieving's a lead into sadness. So the grieving is where there's lots of stories around how it shouldn't have happened and we want something different to have happened and so on. But once we get past those stories, we just get to sadness, just sadness. And that's just a physical expression that's so healing, to let that stuff out that we've been hanging on to. If there's sadness there. See, we're not fixing anything. Things will fix themselves, but we're not fixing anything. All we're doing is opening up to the opportunity of that stuff. So in the beginning, you hear about her going out with your friend and you have an emotional reaction to that. And then you recognize that you were caught up in the emotion of that. And that changes things. The fact that you just recognize that you were there caught up in it. And that gives you enough space to go, oh, isn't that interesting? What was it that wasn't her and my friend, but something in me that got stimulated by that was triggered? What was
It
that?
feels like I was sort of something split away.
Yeah.
Something split. And
So there's
sort of
loss.
like a part's disappeared, a part's walked off.
Right. So, and you miss that part, you've lost that part. Does it feel like loss?
Yeah, loss. Yeah.
Yep. So there will be grief involved and sadness under the grief. Yeah.
And probably it feels like I've not lost, I've not been able to grieve because I've been so shocked and angry, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been no softer grieving.
Yep. Well, grieving can be so painful that we keep away. Anger is a lot easier to cope with than grief.
Yeah.
So sometimes that's how we cope with our grief. We get angry about things.
Yeah, I'm angry about the fact that why should I grieve?
Mm.
You know, I perhaps never loved her anyway, but I know I did, but I don't know. That's how it feels.
Yes. And it's interesting and valuable to recognise that we can have two quite opposing things at the same time. They can sit side by side and they can be quite opposite, and yet they both exist. You know, so we don't have to kind of torture ourselves into the logic that it's one or the other. We can often love and hate at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've got quite a bit of homework this week.
Yeah. So I'd like to hear your first words that were, I forget the exact words, but the first word was that I've had a bugger of a week, something along those lines. I'd like to hear you say that, wow, there was some great opportunity in that week. I maybe didn't catch it all, but I now see that it was there.
I think that's true. Yeah, that's I realise that. I do.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All gist in a mill, as they say.
Yeah. Pretty good. I like that. Yeah, and you get I hope you also get all these unspoken things from me. But like one of those things is that these things happen in their own time. You know, they're absolutely out of our control. There's no finish line, let alone no timeline to worry about. It's just going to happen or not, all of its own. Yeah.
It's just sort of interesting to wonder what's going to come next.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting. It's actually wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. All ready for a week of retreat, Anna? Are you going to the retreat?
Yeah, I actually only joined yesterday accidentally. Very unexpected. That's the way it turned out. It was very interesting. But anyway, yes, I'm joining a retreat on Monday. Very happy. That's the way that worked out. I am in such a strange place, Vince. I really am in such a strange place. First of all, it feels like it's unawakened at all. It's just, it's just like I'm just like normal human being. Any dreams about awakening? It's just boom, boom. It feels like Todd said, it's equanimity. It feels that, that a system in a balanced homeostasis state, anything, like getting triggered, system regulates back itself. It's just like, boom, back in, boom, back in itself. It does that. And it's also feels like, could say like things are losing their meaning, but it's like, it feels like everything is like blending together, that type of way. And very like neutral is the best word I could put on that. Is, but it's okay, but that okay is neither good or bad. That way. And there was that sensation came up, some thought just popped. I didn't even notice what that thought was, but it caused that reaction in the body, what I normally would describe as a fear, that contraction. And just, like, it's just like all this is happening automatically now. And that sensation just comes up, and just like that attention just like fully just dives into it and just merges with that sensation. And like while this is happening, that so-called fear contraction, it just feels so pleasurable and so enjoyable, and just like sweetness, so tasty. You just like really just feel and just like nom 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 nom. it's just such a strange place. Like really is. Like any drive to about non-duality, it's just completely not here. I can't make myself to do any practices to chase something. It's like you lose an interest, but that's not the right way to say it. It's not like that. But it's just like you let, like you release that grasp and just like whatever. But it's even whatever is not right. It's like, yeah, you just like kind of like lean back and just fully relax and just allow something like that. It feels like very like a feminine aspect. Like, you just completely just embrace that feminine energy and just like allows that to take you over, and there is like non-resistance or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And mine just like wonders like, and what now? And what now? And what now? He knows this, like, oh, I need to go there, I need to do this, next practice, that. I just like, whatever, that type of way. Not bad, not good. And you don't know where you are, where you going, what is happening. Very strange place. This is the most awkward ever been since. Like when that emotional stuff was, there was a lot going on, a lot, you know, like doing, searching, like working ways and things like that. Now this is kind of happening, happening and happening. Yeah, and that's just like,
Yeah, I kind of, if I'm hearing you right, if I can hook into, you might be experiencing a kind of an existential vacuum.
yes, it's like that. You know, um it's kind of what I have noticed, you know, like you see people, they are kind of mean nothing, but same time there is like I don't know, you really just, they're so lovely and so cute.
Mm.
And same times it also feels like so lonely, so like a deep like a loneliness, like something like that. And that is just such a strange mixture. Like, you know, there is like a pleasure and pain simultaneously
Yep,
there.
yep.
Yeah. And
And
both are okay to be here. Both are totally okay to be here the way they are.
mm. Yeah. So, yeah, I get it. The story pops up here that them as you this just could be totally off the track, so tell me. But as you discover that meaning is just a thought creation, that the meaning that most people put on life it's a joke. It's a sad joke, you know. It's put there to make them feel better, and it's created as a result. So when that meaning seems to fall away, we can miss it. It's like it gives
Mhm.
us purpose. So it leaves behind a bit of a vacuum when it's gone.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's like
but
something what always been here is gone and
yes,
nothing has
yes,
replaced that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's something will replace it, and so what you haven't yet, maybe in my story, that process hasn't yet gone to the point where you're discovering the freedom in meaninglessness.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
it's you're still in that neutral place in between
Yeah.
meaningless kind of thing.
Hmm. I was looking at that this morning because, you know, like I really just like was looking at that yesterday, last night. But this morning I woke up, okay, like no meaning, no meaning. I mean nothing. You know, like if there is no meaning, I mean nothing. There
Yeah,
is
that's
just
not true though,
like
is it?
me is gone.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's about
It,
all about. I understand that's all our thoughts. I totally understand that.
yeah. Well, it's a feeling that goes with it, of course, because
Hmm.
without that meaning, you lose solidarity.
Hmm.
So that's a
Hmm.
bit of a trick, yeah.
Hmm.
So, so it's see, this is where language stuffs us up every time, and where we're headed for here is in a place where no language works. But to say that there is no meaning, therefore I mean nothing, is a binary situation. It's just not true, you know.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
so not having see meaning nothing is a funny weird one. It's a negative positive. It's a positive,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But there are implications with the word nothing, like emptiness or devoid or missing or something like that. When that's not true because you know no meaning means everything is meaning is equally true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But we have to we do grieve about the loss of things, and so you know the idea of letting meaning go can be a little grief process.
So I'm just, you know, like when that's it does feel like, you know, like that like sorrow, like sadness, like, you know, like depressing, like heaviness, like grief, is probably that what it is.
Yeah.
And I just, just be here, just be here,
Oh,
just.
absolutely. And the brilliant thing is you don't have to work out what it's all about exactly, you know. Just seeing it there can be enough for it to go. Only if it keeps on coming back, then we go, okay, there's something underneath this we need to sort out. But so much of our time will be where we just have to face stuff that is been triggered for the first time. And once we see it, it probably never see it again afterwards. We won't even remember it after a couple of months. It's gone.
There are times, like, just like out of nowhere, just like a deep cry comes up, and it's just like 20, 30 seconds, just releases, and that's it. You don't even know where this is coming from, why that is here. Just like, whoa, and that's it. You just cry it out, and it's gone.
Yeah, it can hit you suddenly. Yeah. One hit me a couple of days ago, and it just like instantly tears, just straight away. It was just that.
Yeah.
But tears of joy in this case it was. But nevertheless, I was sailing along happily, and then boom, there it was. I saw the trigger, and there I was totally lost in it, and then it was gone again, all within 30 seconds.
Yeah. That's very, very interesting the way things are happening. Like, yeah, like even like when something like getting triggered, it's just like it's so quick. It's just like explosion of emotions, like explosion of emotional charge, just like boom, gone. That's it. Yeah, like that. No residue, no after thinking, no contemplating, no that. Just whew.
Yeah, because we're not running away from it. We're not hiding from it anymore. We're happy to let it come out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just happens like yeah. Yeah. That's where I am now. Kind of, like trying to get somewhere, and you see there is nowhere to get. And like there is like seeing they're seeing this mechanism of recoiling back, like something recoiling into something, like back. And it's, then like jellyfish, they swim like back and forth. Yeah. And that's that movement, like back and forth, yeah, like energetic movement. You totally understand there is nowhere can recoil anywhere, but there is still this tendency here, yeah, for that. I don't know, safety. I think it is some kind of safe place. What like really is just like trying to keep it there just in case if that is needed, so you can get back into that shell. And then that's pulling, pushing. But it feels like so like subtle, like energetic movement, really just like a jellyfish moving.
Yep. Yeah. And this is where you can allow your body to just express that. It's just beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And it really just is like body is just doing it. Yeah. And that's just like, yeah. I'm like really noticing, like how this like thoughts are appearing, and like some all like thought overlays on body how this form getting like really insistence on form. That's what it is. Like really it's like that mental construct, like insistence on form, on like anything, because like when you sit like this and just like observe that so-called body, there's just like it's not like one solid thing. It's just like bits and pieces, something there and there, and they're like slides, just going and going. Yeah. And the same, with like this everything like around, like like any sounds or something. It's just like something just getting applied on top.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Like really just like insistence on form, I could say.
Mm.
Through mental construct.
Yep. Yeah. So when you see that happening, when you see how you create form with the mental thing, so that's a journey.
Yeah, so that's where I am at the moment. Just enjoying life the way it is.
Good stuff. Yeah. Oh, it's a
Nothing
great
bad.
discovery, isn't it?
No.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
It is, yeah. Yeah, it really is. You know, like it's like giving up fighting or something like that and
Yeah.
just allowing. Yeah.
Mm. Have you been, Anne? How are you tonight?
Yeah, good. A lot going on this week. A lot. I've loved this meeting. The shares have been amazing. I wanted to mention an experience I had. There's been quite a lot going on this week, but one of them was let's start. Sorry, just 1 second. I'll start with this. So I've got a very addictive character, and I think I've still got this addiction to shopping, and it's not very good for me physically, I don't think. So anyway, I had that run this week of crazy mad shopping. Then I had the crash, and then I've been exploring sitting with feelings. So sitting with the feelings of that. And I just had this slight sensation here that wasn't a pain. I thought it was clearly maybe emotional. So I was like, just got really curious about it. Like, what is that? What is that? And my mind kept bouncing back. It kept bouncing back to my mind. And I had quite a struggle keep pulling it into this. And then some visualizations of when I was a child. I used to be babysat with these boys, and they locked me in a cupboard under the stairs with an Alsatian. It was very scary. So I kind of, in the visualization as an adult, went and sat with the child in the cupboard and comforted her. And then out of the blue, that felt a little bit sort of contrived in a way, like there was me doing that, but it was still comforting. And then without the blue, it moved into, which didn't feel contrived, when I was, and I don't know what age I was, but my mum and dad used to go to the pub and leave me alone. And I was absolutely terrified. And I used to barricade myself in with furniture because I was always scared all my life that someone would get me. And then at 11 o'clock, I'd see them coming out the pub. If they turned right, they were coming home. If they turned left, they were going to the club. And I literally sat by the window waiting for them to come home. And so the visualization that came up unexpectedly was that child. And the feeling of banging on the door. So having a look at it after, I think it was rage and fear at the same time. You were talking about you can have two feelings at once. There was rage, there was feeling, there was fear, and it went really deep. That did. It felt really real. It felt like it was happening now. But obviously I knew on some level it wasn't. I was aware that it wasn't, but it touched something very deep. And then afterwards, and there were tears came. And I don't find it very easy to cry, so it was quite a big thing that tears were just coming. So it obviously had touched something deep, because I find it difficult to cry because they're so I've realised they're so deep down repressed feelings and emotions. And then afterwards there was a bit of oh, I don't know if I should have done that. So when you were talking about controlling the meeting, I was looking at that like, well, there was no one controlling that, it just happened. So there's still a sense of a controller here, which I probably need to look at. That keeps popping up, and I'm interested in looking at that. But just that feeling of like, oh, what have I done? You know, it felt so dangerous. There was a danger with it, like too deep or too much, or like, oh my God, that's a whole door to a whole other world
No,
that I've
choiceless.
repressed.
Yeah, no, that sounds good to me. I love it. Yeah, and like you said, that it starts off contrived, but then goes into spontaneous, and that stuff tells you stuff. You know, again, it's a case of not what it's about, but why it's there. You know, so the trick is that you could see that it wasn't it wasn't even about the boys locking you up. That it was about how you felt about that, right?
Yeah.
And the juice that came with the spontaneous one of watching mum and dad right instead of left and not come home, and the fury that came up as a result of that. Brilliant stuff, absolutely brilliant that you can get in contact with that. You're actually seeing details of it. So that's good. Now, when you see that and recognise that, and although you might say, you see, I give the wrong impression with a lot of these things because I don't know how to not do it. But you know, yes. So although you say about negative control, you know, did I control that? Did I do the wrong thing by controlling that? Look, what happens is what happens. Right? So whether we want to look back and label it as being control or not control is almost irrelevant, because that's just a label, right? So I know that it happened, just happened. That's it. You know, what caused it, I'm not interested in. I don't even need to go down that road. But there it is. It was great that that you presented yourself with this stuff, and that will change you, without doubt. You will be different as a result of seeing that. It might need a bit more work. It might come back, or it might not. You know, we just have to wait and see about that. But yeah, you are unearthing. So what you said about that being repressed, that being suppressed so much, down so deep, you know, and guess what? When that happens, and then we forget intellectually that happened, it's the body that remembers it, and it's the body that reacts to these triggers when they get pulled. Yeah, so that's definitely a road
But
to
it's
freedom.
interesting that there wasn't an obvious trigger. As the meeting's been going on, I think this might be to do with an internalized parent-child, and I think that the control is the parent, and I think the repressed feelings is the child. And I know this is a story, but it helps me to understand it. So, and it's the control I'm frightened of, because that control does not want me to go into that stuff. It's frightened of it. And this stuff wants to be seen and heard, and you know, it's who I am.
It will be.
It's essential. Yeah. So what I saw as an insight possibly was that this, I thought to myself, well, what has triggered this? It's out of nowhere. And I think the trigger might have been the shopping, because in a sense, when I'm shopping, I go, it's very excitable and I go very into my head, very childlike in a way. It's an obsession, it's an addiction, you know, like I'm going to get something from it, which I never do because I take everything back. And so the pattern continues, buy, take it back, disappointment. So, but I think that maybe it's showing me that that child was the screaming for me to stop doing that. Because when I'm doing that, I'm abandoning a part of myself.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm doing that, I'm very much in the head and abandoning the senses.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, and that's a very big pattern of mine to go with. I've done it all my life, you know, like go with the head and be ambitious and career and push and push. But it's always abandoning another part of me. It's always been abandoning this childlike innocence, this,
Mm-hmm.
the senses, you know, it's almost like I've not been able to live my life because I'm too busy going somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm too busy achieving and running away and trying to get to this, even with non-duality, trying to get to this place that you know, this awakening, this enlightenment that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. The perfect dress, top, whatever look doesn't exist. But that seeking energy, that head energy that's taken me into fantasy with all that, is abandoning something else. But then, Vince, I almost want someone to say, it's okay, you are doing the right thing. But I think I need to say that to myself because I'm so scared that I've abandoned it for so long.
Yeah.
All these feelings and things. It's like, ooh, it was like when it's like, oh my God, what the fuck? I don't know what to do with all of that.
What? Guess what? You know, what's happening automatically is that abandonment is being reversed. You're now becoming friends with little Annie, who got locked in the cupboard, who gets left behind when her parents go out, who whatever, right? You're becoming friends with her. You're giving her space in your life again. So that abandonment is being healed by you. That's the parent in you doing it. You're the parent in you is healing the abandonment in little Annie. And that's happening by whatever turns up. That's not something you've got to plan. That'll happen. What comes up, because you're learning to trust your intuition, you're learning to recognize what your body is telling you. And so that's why these things can come out finally.
I think there's just such a fear that because I've learned this, I've had to learn this control to be something I'm not, because how I wasn't working for me. I'm so scared of that control shutting it down again. I'm so scared of that. That one, if something too big came up, it would just shut it down and not go back there. It was almost like that the other day, that it would say, right, we're not going there. Forget it, just live your life as it is and just forget all that you've managed so far. Just don't go there. Do you see what I mean? That's the fear.
Yeah. And that will present itself, but that you won't kowtow to that. It's not because you won't, it's just because you won't.
I haven't got a choice.
Yeah, that's right, there's no choice. And the fact that you
I love what
sorry?
I love what Tyler put in the chat when you were talking to Dennis, which was brilliant. and Tyler used the word helpless, you changed it for powerless, which was great. And then in the chat, he gave another word, which was choiceless.
Yes.
And
yes.
that word really that, it's like, oh, please God, make there not be a choice, because I so want a choiceless world.
Mm.
You know, what relief, choiceless. Oh, thank you.
Mm.
I'm not making any choices. I'm not doing anything, you know.
And you know, that's a trick. You never were. You only thought you were.
Yeah.
Mm. It's all active, isn't it? It's all going at a pretty fast pace for you. But yeah, but it's again, it feels good to me. I like what's happening. I like
Yeah,
those two incidences of you. Even the first one that was contrived still has value.
yeah.
You know, like because it, you know, you think about it this way. I contrived that. Well, why did you contrive that and not something else?
Mm,
See, that says
mm,
something to me. The fact that
mm,
you went there and did that suggests
mm,
there's juice there for you.
mm,
You didn't have a scenario about pink elephants. You had a scenario about being locked in the cupboard.
mm. Well, the actual parents not coming home was worse than being locked in the cupboard.
Yeah,
But
that
I'm
was a
just terrified.
spontaneous one.
I know some of the things that have happened to me that I can't remember, and I'm just terrified of seeing them and it being too much for me.
No such thing as
Like
too much.
abuse.
You know, that's an old religious one, I think, but it works, and that is that God's not going to give you anything that you can't cope with.
Mm.
Huh?
Well, he has before.
Oh, you coped. You coped. It might not have been in a very good way, but you coped. You're still here, aren't you?
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
certainly it can we can get taken to the edge for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you don't go over the edge, then you're going to come back stronger. At least that's
Yeah.
the theory anyway, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Just gently. I have to keep remembering gently.
Yeah.
And you're doing amazing work. You really are. Really beautiful. Just one thing I just want to tell you when you pulled away, just like, no, not that. I remember that happened as well. I just you didn't know that's there and you like, it's like, imagine if that door was locked all the time. And that room is full of kids, and they are just so much missing you, missing your love and attention and your presence. And you open that door and they all Mommy.
Mm. Mm.
Overwhelming.
Mm. I know it's there. It's the feeling of it because I've repressed my feelings so much. To actually feel it is a shock, and I don't like shocks. It's like, fucking hell, that was bad. That was unbearable. Obviously, I bared it, but I daren't see anything worse. I know there are much worse things than that, and I daren't see them because, it's like, I mean, the day after felt dreadful. Felt like I'd done something wrong. It really did. It felt like, just don't do that again, because
look back what you went through when that experience came up. You managed it. Oh, I actually managed it. I'm still okay. I can do that because I have done that. So this is okay. I can totally be with that. It feels uncomfortable. It feels overwhelming, just too much and all this. But I'm still okay. I managed that. Totally. 100% okay.
And the fact that you did manage it means that it can come up again and it can be even worse because it knows you can manage it. Or it can come up again and not be half as bad because you've already worked through some of it. Or it may never come up again at all. Depends. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah. I suppose I've got to believe that it has to come up.
Yeah, we do have that as a thing of us. You know, we got it into us. We need to get it out of us, kind of thing.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing the way. I mean, it's magic again. You know, how does expression change something for us? So huge. It can do. You know, we just have to say the words, and all of a sudden, the whole world is different for us. What? How does that work? God, it's magic, isn't it?
Mm. Mm.
Mm.
Mm. Mm.
We're boring you, Bianca.
I'm just very tired.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to say one thing to Dennis, if he's here.
You there, Dennis? I'd say he's not there at the moment.
Mm. But I thought that I feel helpless.
I'm here.
Here he is. Yep.
Okay. Because they say it's a serendipity thing, so maybe, just in case, I will tell you, when you describe this experience with the helmet, the bicycle helmet, I laughed because my favorite book on awakening and favorite book in the world, period, is titled The Helmet of Horror.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's by Victor Pelevin, and it's a novel written in form of chat, a computer chat. There are 8 persons chatting, and it's and the funny thing is, I've lent it to some of my Buddhist friends to read, and they didn't know it's about Buddhism or awakening. And for me, it's openly so obvious, and it's very funny and very smart. And I don't know, it maybe takes 2 hours to read if you're a slow reader.
I'll definitely give it a go, Bianca, now that you mentioned it. Yeah. And it's funny, Bianca, I wear helmets all the time. Just when I put on that helmet, and I obviously had the thought, I'm trapped, or, I'm going to die. Something of that nature triggered a panic. But yeah, maybe that happened. You could tell me to read that book, and I read that book, and something happens.
Yeah.
But I thought about this feeling of helplessness. I wouldn't say powerlessness, because it's more that the feeling that no one and nothing can help me. It's not just what I can do. No one can do it.
It's funny now that I'm reflecting on that again. It's like in that moment, if I didn't get that helmet off, I would have had to exert great power and rage and anger. I would have had to become so big an outrage that that's what I was avoiding. Vince, your comment about earlier, the Incredible Hulk, that really struck me. Yeah, coming all out together.
Dennis,
Yeah, Anna?
what's you to express that anger and rage?
I missed the first part of what you said.
What are you afraid? You know, like what are you afraid of? What scares you to express that anger and rage? You know, to fully to allow it to come up. What is there? You know, like holding you back?
I'm not sure. It feels very old. Feels very animalistic. Feels like it could do a lot of damage. Violent. These are all just imaginings of it.
You can try to bring, you know, like just like not now, but a time when you sit down, just close your eyes and bring up your mom or dad and just, you know, like whatever you want to say them. Just, I mean, like not like you physically brings them, but you brings them up in your ear and just say everything you wanted to say to your dad and just say everything you want to say to your mom and see what happens. It's just because I know in one instance, because I had that repressed anger and I remember like, you know, I brought up my dad and I just said everything to him what I wanted to say. Next thing I'm bringing my mom and just like, oh, I can lose her. So there was a fear of losing my mom if I expressed my anger. I wouldn't know that until I've done it. So it's, you know, like, it's like very, like you need to sit with that. It probably wouldn't come up now, but it's all these things are just like so deeply within us.
Yeah,
Something
that makes sense,
hold,
Anna. That resonates. That
yeah.
rejection. Yeah, that's definitely a piece of what's underneath the fear of it, that I'll be
Mhm.
rejected. But there is a parental element to it, and definitely the anger and the rage, the suppression feels like a reaction to my dad, who could, you know, on occasion be very angry, be very expressive, and part of me admires that in him, that ability to, you know, let loose. But I think I
Mhm.
reacted to, as a child, to him doing that, to being, first of all, invisible, so you didn't get a slap or a hit, but then to not react that way as an opposition to that. So yeah, both that father piece and the I'll be rejected is definitely in
Mhm.
there.
Mhm. Yeah, you can do that, you know, like a homework just for yourself whenever you have time, just like those a deep dive into that. It's like many interesting things coming up. Like, you know, you can do the same with your like managers at work and see, you know, like you go there and express everything to them and see what is coming up. You might get surprised what is.
Right, but it's good advice not to do it in reality. Just go into the shed and do it on
No,
your
no,
own.
no, no. No, I think you really, because in reality, it just happens so quick, but you really just sit with that and just like feel into that sensation and bring all these pictures up and how you're doing and saying all that, and then see how body just like sometimes like, no, 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 no. If we do that, something this and this and this can happen. No, 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 no. So yeah, that's very interesting way to figure out what is this like holding back mechanism.
Yeah, and you know what? I was kind of starting to do it just as you were talking there. And what I noticed was if I expose their flaws, they'll expose mine, and I don't want that.
See, things like this, yeah,
Straight
yeah.
away. So that's only 3 seconds worth of a go. So Anna, I may not come out after half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, every one of those little things is a gem, you know, absolute gem. It's just amazing how things will change for you when you see them. So if you just sit and imagine a situation, like say with your dad or whatever, and you're looking to see whether any emotion gets stirred in your body, and you just want that Goldilocks amount, not too much, not too little, right? Just enough
Yeah.
to be able to go head to the sensation and have a look at what's going on there, you know. And if you imagine a situation with your mum and dad and it's not really getting anything happening for you, then imagine yourself putting that helmet back on and clipping it up, and go with the feeling of being trapped and tell them what you would be telling them from inside that helmet, and might be amazed at what comes out.
Who's them, Vince, in that scenario?
Them be say your parents, your mum and
Okay.
dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, good idea. Do it down the shed so that you're not, not having to justify yourself to anybody. Yeah,
Thanks, Vince.
good stuff. Okay, well, we just hit midnight here, so I'm gonna go to bed now. So, good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Night. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Vince. Beautiful.